Hello, I'm Nick Ives, and once again, we're online with Light, and I have a very special guest today. Very excited to have none other than Worshipful Brother Jeff Blayman. Jeff, how are you today?
Very good. Nice to see you, right, worshipful brother. How are you?
I am excellent. Now, we have a lot to talk about today, and I'm gonna kind of let the big news here right off from the beginning. You are going to be joining none other than the Grand Line next year. You have been appointed by the Deputy Grand Master to be the Grand Junior Steward. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. It's indeed a huge honor and a huge responsibility, and I have no idea what's coming, and I'm looking forward to it. And like they say, I'm looking forward to being of service and figuring it out, and I'm sure I'll figure out where I fit in as we go. But I'm looking forward to it very much.
If you do figure it out, let me know because I'm still working on it. But let's go back to the beginning. We're going to come back to this. We're going to get to that whole thing. I wanted to make the elephant in the room known because that's pretty big news. But right off the bat, what brought you to Masonry for the first time? A lot of us have heard of Masonry and maybe have brushed by, but what was the moment where you were like, you know what, I think I want to be a Mason?
So, like everyone else, it was Hollywood early on as a boy, whether it was like sort of like Raiders of the Lost Ark and movies that led you down kind of esoteric pathway. Eventually, like I stumbled into Freemasonry and George Washington and some old books with, black and white checkered floors. And I just always had an interest in it. It's funny that I didn't pick up on it sooner in the sense that it's in my family line. It was only after I became a Mason that I found out about relatives in the past who were Masons and going back to the Civil War and even further back. And I brought a couple things I could show of like relatives that had like Masonic keepsakes and key fobs and things. Yeah, so it's just weird to think that it took me all the way until about 2017 actually asked the question because it had been in front of my face so many times. It's almost like the clues were there. I just wasn't picking up what the universe was putting down. You know what I mean?
Sometimes the universe has to knock three times
It
to really bang you on the head.
and to tell you, so the story of how I got into it is actually kind of singular and unique in the way that I'm in the skateboard business. A random skateboarder who's a worshipful brother named Ryan T. Howard. He's basically a past master, Warren Lodge 51. He used to run a board shop in Middletown called Cutting Edge, and he drove all the way out to Norwich to my skateboard shop. I have a national brand. I sell my skateboards in about 84 skate shops in 30 states, and I have a brick and mortar in the city of Norwich. And he drove out to pick up some boards and basically just shoot the breeze. And while he was there, I said, "Hey, I saw your Instagram, and you had a picture of a brother named Chad Bromley. He goes by the name Apathy. He's a very talented hip hop artist. And brother Chad had been in Hiram Lodge, Good Shepherd sign in front of the East, and was the cover of, I think it was January 2017 Connecticut Freemason. And I said, "Hey, I saw that picture of App on the cover of some magazine, man." I was just like, I didn't know he was a Mason. He's like, "Yeah, I'm a Mason too." I was like, "What?" I said, "I've always wanted to be a Mason." And he's like, "Oh my God." So we talked for about an hour, and he said, "I'll bring you a petition tomorrow." And he drove to Middletown and then came back the next day from Middletown. I live 45 minutes from that area. I strangely joined a lodge 45 minutes from my home. I live 1 minute away from Somerset St. James. It is literally like I could skateboard to it. But anyway, I love the guys too at Warren, so I'm never going to go anywhere. But it is funny that the few times I am able to attend Somerset St. James, when I get home, I feel like I cheated the system because it was only like a minute drive. You know what I mean? But so Ryan basically brought me a petition, and then I joined, and there's been no looking back, man. It's been wonderful ever since.
And that must have been a really, like you said, a unique experience. You're 45 minutes from home, but now you have this whole new community of friends and brothers surrounding you at Warren Lodge. Can you tell us a little bit about what the feel of Warren Lodge is? And we'll get into your leadership roles later, but like when you first joined, I always feel like every lodge is like a zeitgeist that it's hard to define, but it's something that's tangible that only a member can know. What's Warren
Sure.
Lodge all about?
So Warren Lodge, as it was told to me when I first joined, was a rural lodge. And the idea was that instead of being like, like Middletown being a city lodge built by bankers in a great old building on Pleasant Street, this was like a small rural lodge on a back road where people came after work. And the idea was if you had to go home to change, you might not come out. If you had to go home to eat, you might not come out. So they were basically like, come as you are. And so a lot of times guys would show up in like, their Carhartt pants and their sweatshirts, and they just got off of work and they were coming to lodge, but they were making sure they showed up. And there's like a real wonderful sense of brotherly love and community. And I've sensed it at many lodges. I mean, it's not different in so much as that it's unique, but it is special because I feel like they really do have a strong sense of bond with their families as well as the brothers themselves. When we have like ladies at the table type of events, everyone's happy to see each other again. I mean, it really feels like a family reunion. It's kind of beautiful.
I could say every time I've been there, it's a great place, and could you just talk a little bit about the ceiling in the room? I mean, it really is a unique, beautiful ceiling and lodge room. What's a little bit of the history there?
So, the lodge was chartered in 1811, and like many lodges, we were started off in like bar rooms and basements and barns. Wherever the charter went, that's where we opened. At some point in 1874, we started using the American Legion building, which was actually formerly the property of a brother of the lodge. He donated it to the American Legion for $1. He did him a solid a long
Wow.
time ago. We're in the process right now of trying to have them donate it back to us for $1, and we're going to put a ton of money into fixing the building. So that's kind of a future goal. But at the present moment, it's an American Legion. We've been there since 1874. What's really kind of interesting is the upstairs accoutrement has never really changed. I mean, you know how it goes. It's the same old chairs. It's the same everything. But at one point, one of our worshipful brothers, Robert E. Godwin, his daughter painted the ceiling and gave us this beautiful canopy of stars. And it's just really well done. I mean, it was kind of nice that she took that time to kind of put a little artistic flourish on the ceiling to give us a little more, sense of Masonic home. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's very impressive to see, and I definitely feel like there's a nice homey atmosphere in there. And our lodge actually, well, Ouroboros, in fact, there was a renovation, so we had to open and we actually opened and closed our lodge in Warren Lodge, and I sat in the west to help out, and it was like a cool little cutout in the west, and I think that that was such a neat visit. So now, so you've joined Warren Lodge at this part of our story, and you start, getting involved. And could you talk a little bit about that step that you made? And you've made quite a name for yourself. And I think everyone's curious, like, where's it all come from?
It's a great story, but it's a little funny to talk about myself. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not that type, so it's.
Get used to it. It's how it
Yeah,
goes.
it's crazy. So, basically what happened was I was a fellow craft, and I had said to my guys, I was like, "Listen," like, they were talking about putting my degree off. I was proficient, and I said they wanted to put the degree off, and I said, "If I'm allowed to piggyback the degree at Anchor Lodge, I could then be elected in the next cycle and help fix the financial problems of the lodge because we were like $5,000 uncollected dues. Like, it was like there was like 2 letters going out for secretarial dues requests, and if they didn't pay it, it just rolled over. And I basically said, like, if that's possible. I talked to both the district deputy and the 2 masters, and everyone said it was fine. So I was able to become a master mason. I proved my proficiency, and in the next election cycle, I was elected to be the secretary. And then I just called every single brother, and I made a list too. I still have the book, and I get them on the phone, and I'd say, "Listen, I'm not here calling about the dues, but I am calling to say, how have you been? What's going on? And, what can we do for you?" And most guys said, no one's ever done that. Like, no one's ever called to ask me what they can do for me. And so I said, I took a list of like, and I also said, like, you haven't been back in a long time. At the time, there's 6 to 10 people showing up at the most every meeting. That's it. So I basically said, why haven't you been? And they'd usually say, brother A ticked them off a long time ago, or this happened, or that happened, or it's like it's boring. We're just going to read the minutes and close. Like, why am I going to come out for that? And so they had the standard issue of like whatever drove them crazy. And I took that list and I synthesized it down to the 3 main arguments of what everyone had as a gripe. And I made that the focus of what could be fixed fastest and what would make the most effective like gain. And then we slowly kind of chipped away at it, and then brothers started to come back. There was some brothers that had to leave. There's a couple bad apples always spoil the bunch, and that's a whole nother story. But with those brothers having left, then that brought back like at least 6 people right away. And then those brothers started telling other brothers, well, this isn't what we remember. This is a lot different. And then I was able to move through the chairs. I always maintain my position as assistant secretary behind the scenes because once you start the communication train, you can't let it fall on someone else. And if they don't happen to do it to the same level, then there's a lapse. And then at that point, we would have regressed. So I was willing to kind of like still maintain that level of, I guess, like outward connection the entire time. And then, yeah, so now I was able to move into the East. Once I was there, like the first year, like any master, it's overwhelming and you don't get as much done as you thought. But I also had pretty high goals. But the way it worked out with our line, we have so many past masters and we didn't really have a lot of new blood. So I had the opportunity to be the master 4 years in a row. And that's at the election of the officers. I mean, they chose to have me be there. But I looked at it as a huge advantage. Some people will say, like, oh, God, 4 years. It's like, no, it was 4 years of like 1 year I got to plan and get things up and started. By the second year, we were running at full speed. The third year, we had accomplished goals I hadn't even really thought I was going to get to. In the fourth year, it was like cruise control. I was willing to do a fifth year because our brother, who's the current master of the lodge, worshipful master David L. Rutter Jr., he was potentially going to be the potentate of the shrine and he couldn't do both. So if he was going to be the potentate, I was like, I'll just do one more year as a holding place for you because for me, it wouldn't have been a problem. And then no one has to skip a step. And he ended up having the election cycle with the shrine went a different way. He became available, and now he's doing wonderful things with the lodge. It's really interesting. I'll give you one last footnote because I can talk forever. Is that whereas I come from a business background in Norwich, where like I'm involved in community development in the city. I'm on small business development. We gave out $3.38 million to small businesses on a board that I sit on, and I'm part of all sorts of things. So like for me, building the lodge from a business standpoint was exactly how I saw it. Like, how can I create marketing? How can I get exposure? You know what I mean? How can I do recruitment? Whereas Dave is a guy from Portland. I'm not. I'm from Norwich. So I can't make effective decisions in a town where I don't know anyone in City Hall, but I can make the lodge stronger. Dave knows everyone in City Hall. So Dave can make us stronger in the community. And that's the wonderful difference between the two of us. I love to see that angle of like, okay, we've moved in a whole nother direction. And right now it's powerful to watch him kind of like do what he can do. And like, I feel like our strength in the community is only growing. By the end of this year, I feel like the entire city's going to know us.
Well, I got a lot of questions because there's a lot that was going on there, and I think your experience can help a lot of people listening to this. And so, first off, I want to talk about the communication piece and how you called people. I gotta say, I stole a page out of your book when we did Blue Wave to talk about reaching out to NPDs, and I will say that NPD went down something on the terms of almost 40, 50% for 1 year. It was really a sharp decline because we were encouraging everyone to, make the call. I can tell you that some of the people, the feedback I got was, well, sometimes I get a little bit nervous to call. And what's some of the techniques you're cold calling someone, you don't know them personally, and it sounds easy, just like, well, just call them. But what were some of the techniques you use, and how would you coach someone to say, this is how you make that outreach feel authentic and real, and not be nervous about it?
I looked at it like I was introducing myself. I would call and be like, hey, brother so and so, brother Hiram, this is brother Jeff Blayman. I'm the new secretary over here at Warren Lodge 51 in Portland. And I just wanted to introduce myself. I know we've never met in Lodge, but I'm just calling everybody saying, like, is there anything we can do for you? The brothers and I are kind of trying to do a little outreach. You need your lawn mowed. You need your leaves raked. Something going on at the house. What's going on in town? If you got a second to chat, and the next thing you know, they'd open up. And then that's when I generally would inquire about. So I understand you haven't been back. It's not a criticism, but why? Did something happen? Was it life? Was it a child? Was it a job change? Was it something somebody said? Which I always wanted to know if it was really just something as simple as someone made a petty remark about religion or politics. And then the next thing you know, that's the end of that. Because it seems that more times than not, that was what it was. Like the reason people didn't come back is they didn't like so and so. And it's like, wow, like that guy doesn't even come here anymore. So at that point, they're like, oh, okay, I'll come back. And then they brought 10 people. I mean, it's the wildest thing.
And so that was question number one. I wanted to start with that one. Another thing is when it comes to communication, I know that I get the Blayman grams in the mail, the postcards and the notes about some of the events you have coming up, and I always appreciate knowing what's going on. Can you talk about where you got started with doing that and what that program looks like?
So the postcards initially were because most of my membership, if we were to do it by a demographic, are going to be 60 plus. And I realized that like computer savviness may be more widespread now, but people like a piece of paper they can put on the fridge or they can keep it above the visor in the car. You know what I mean? Like it's a physical reminder because if it's an email, I got to look for it. Where if it's a piece of paper that I've got on my dashboard, I can grab it and look at it every time I'm in the car. It's just there. So the idea was to make something physical. And also, too, it was a constant reminder that we exist by mailing constant things. And I like the idea that the ones I designed, I took from old Masonic postcards. I had them printed up. I mean, I offered to make them for every lodge in Connecticut and just change their information. I was able to make them for so cheap with this group in Florida that I have through my business. I mean, it was like a penny on the dollar. And the idea was basically like if you could just mail these things out and then like even if like, 20 or 30 brothers don't care at 30 cents a piece for a postcard stamp, it's not a lot of money. And I like the idea though that the other people were into it too because you could also just use your label maker and put a reminder on it. I used to put like the 4 meetings for the month on a label. And then obviously still you still have to put a stamp on it. You still have to put their address and you still have to put this larger it takes a while, believe it or not. I think no one understands. I always send pictures to our district deputy, Mike Maselli. I always send him pictures of my dining room table because it's like I'll be in the process of here's other things, birthday cards. It's not hard to make a list. Birthday cards, send everybody one. And Masonic birthday cards, JP Luther makes these really great, like kind of long invitations to a function at your lodge. And when you fold them up, they look exactly like an apron. Those are great. And what I did to simplify the process of having to look up everybody's birthdays, I took my label maker, or excuse me, my label sheet for every member of the lodge. And all I did is above their name, I put their actual birthday, just no hyphens and dashes, just the numbers. And then the second number after it is their Masonic birthday. So those two are on every guy's thing all the way down. And if you print the list off twice, you go through this list for birthdays, you just look for the number and put them on there. This one, you look for it and put them on there. And you can always do the math if you need to figure out how many years it's been. But those two lists at the end of the year, they're both gone. They're both empty and you got everybody. And to be honest, like I get so many nice notes back from brothers in Maine and Virginia and South Carolina that are like, hey, man, thanks for remembering my birthday. And by the way, I found this old thing from the lodge. I'm going to send it over to you. And here's a check as a donation. Thanks for everything. Like the connection made people care from afar, which was kind of beautiful.
Well, I can say I do morning announcements at my school. We do like a radio show, and the birthdays of the day are that thing. And I can say when we miss one, and it happens sometimes by accident, we miss a birthday. Hey, what? I want my birthday, and it's a little something. It's not much, but it's a lot when you're recognized. So I do appreciate the birthday thing. And another thing, you had a good. I got this is the last piece I'm going to dissect out of that piece that you were talking about. You and I both served as master of a lodge for a long period of time. When I was the master under dispensation and the charter master of Ouroboros 151, and that was a stretch of 3.5 years, the way that it fell because of COVID and everything. And you were for. I also felt like it got easier as time went on, and I felt that there were certain rhythms and routines, and I knew that I had to step away at one point because I knew the other guys were excited because they wanted to be master, and I felt almost a little sad about stepping away, but there's something to that being said, like, if you and you have the longevity of time working at something, and could you maybe just speak to that a little bit about the advantage of the time that you had, the 4 years, and what it felt like to be a master of a lodge, not just for 1 year, but for multiple years?
I mean, I got comfortable in the position where like it was no longer I wasn't like somehow nervous or I didn't feel any pressure to perform in any way. I always showed up prepared. I mean, being that I own my own business, I would close on those certain Thursdays that I had lodge and I would just stay home and do my agenda for the whole night. I photocopied it and I would give it to the secretary, which was Mike Maselli at the time, our district deputy. And that way he didn't have to write everything down that I said. He could literally just put notes on top of the agenda that I already was going to talk about. And then it became kind of like, not rudimentary, but like there was a certain amount of like ease in the way that we had a rhythm. And so that's why I was willing to do the fifth year for Dave if he couldn't do it. If he had to be the potentate, I was just going to do it again anyway because it was easy. But at the same time, it was easy because at that point I had you figure 20 meetings a year. I'm almost up to 80 meetings at that point. I mean, I can handle almost anything that's coming at me. And I liked the idea though that everybody was. It's almost like we became an example for the rest of the new guys because they could watch us. You know what I mean? They could have someone to be like, oh, I could do it like that because it was so consistent for so long that we were like a good example of somebody that like, okay, that's how it's done. They didn't really see it because, there's always been years where there's certain brothers that were placeholders and that like whether they phoned it in or not. But like I was trying as hard as I could every time I sat in that chair to make sure that I gave the lodge what it deserved. And I feel like the brothers picked up on that and then they were eager to serve as well. The two guys we have, like right now, our worshipful master, David L. Rudder, and then to follow him, we have brother Patrick Coffer. I mean, two guys, I'm excited to see both of their years. You know what I mean? Like they're going to bring such different energy. It's kind of great to be excited to see the next guy. Because for me, my fiance, Jessica, said, she goes, "Are you sad that you're not going to be the master anymore?" And I said, "Not really." You know what I mean? Like, it's like I've done it. It's not like I don't wanna do it forever. It was fun to do, and it was an honor for sure. But when I sat behind the secretary's desk for the first time after I was installed, and you know how big the secretary's desks are? And I'm, like, literally, like, over there in the corner, I can't see anybody, I can't and it's like it was kind of a funny thing to be, like, so, like, out not out to pasture, but, like, to the side and hidden that I was like, "Oh god, it's so different over here. Oh, this is nice." Like, yeah, so anyway, yeah, it was a great time. I
Well,
loved it.
I could say it's funny how you say, like, or where you're sad your fiance asked you. When I was voted out of I won't say voted out of office, but when the time came for me to move on, it was unanimous for the next candidate, including, so it's unanimous, which means, I voted for him as well. But I was, like, really emotional about it. I, like, wasn't ready to hear the result. I knew what was gonna happen, but, like, I was so I understand that feeling of sadness, but my follow-up question is you talked about how excited you were for the next person. I am obsessed with this idea that for every responsibility, someone's got to be on deck at all times. And it shouldn't be a threat to anybody. Someone's always got to be on deck for every responsibility. How did you prepare your successors to step into the shoes of a four-time in a row master who, by all accounts, I know you won't say it about yourself, but everyone around you says, wow, that was really, you really energized Warren Lodge and things are really great. How do you get the next brothers ready to fill your shoes?
I think it's lead by example. There was never a time I wasn't willing to sit down and answer anything at any point. I mean, go over anything with from an EA on up. What do you want to know about? Let's talk about it. And I think everybody knew it was an open door and that, my time is it's yours if you want it. And then the other thing too though is it goes back to books. Like I'm reading a really cool book by Andrew Hammer right now that I was just given by a brother named Michael Northup. He's very cool. And there's a really interesting book that I came across from the 30s called The Master's Book by Carl Claudy. And what I really think is awesome is that book, if you just read it before you go into the East, Carl Claudy, that book says everything you need to know. Read it cover to cover 5 times. Every time I would fly in a plane, I go to Italy with my fiance quite a bit, and that would be what I would take. I wouldn't take anything else. I'd take this silly little 115-page book and I would read it over and over and over again because Carl just tells you exactly what you need to do through the whole thing. And the beautiful thing is that Dave, the new worshipful master, Dave Rudder, I gave it to him before he's here and I said, you need to read this a couple of times before you take the East. This is like my only homework assignment to you is you need to read this. And the last page is really kind of nice. It says basically like, weary is the master who stays up at night thinking about the things that he never accomplished as he sits in the back row of lodge, wishing he could have done more. But, the master who sleeps well, who exhausts himself in the role and leaves no stone unturned and gives the most that he can. And then it says, and he wears a sprig of rosemary for remembrance. And on the installation day, Dave remembered that and he gave me a sprig of rosemary and a lapel holder from the book. And I was like, wow. I was like, that was the nicest, most thoughtful and considerate and poignant thing he could have done. He really read the book when he picked up on that one line. And yeah, so I wore that sprig of rosemary with honor. That was cool.
That's awesome. Now, after all of this, you're about to step into a bigger role, and you're basically going to be helping to manage and lead the seventh district. And could you just tell us a little bit for those of you? I know the seventh district is kind of the river district along the Connecticut River, but could you tell us a little about the spirit and life of the seventh district, what it's like, and what you're excited about?
I mean, it's a really great group of guys. I mean, throughout the different lodges, I mean, we have a whole myriad of I always like to say everyone's a character. I like when you did that really great Muppets overlay. Like, we're all characters, man. We all make great Muppets. But like the seventh has some really cool characters, and I've really enjoyed visiting all the lodges and being present for different table lodges and so forth. For me, it'll give me another chance to kind of be in all those rooms and be there more often and maybe be a part of ceremonies I wouldn't have normally been invited to. For me, like being the secretary of the Blue Lodge Council, I was going to be at those Blue Lodge Council meetings anyway, so I was the secretary. Well, now that I have this wonderful appointment, I'm going to be at those meetings anyway, and I get to participate as the secretary, but maybe I can bring the information passed down through the correspondence of Grand Lodge directly to that meeting because I'm never going to miss one. I like the idea that, like, across the district too, we have a really good use of communication and people tend to work together degree wise. I mean, when we need someone to help out, everybody helps out. And I know that's not unique because every district has, strong players, but I know that as a smaller district, I mean, now we're down to we had lost one of our lodges. It merged. Solar Lodge merged into Anchor Lodge, and now obviously, like we're condensed slightly. But I like the idea though that it's just the same group of guys, one less lodge, and the harmony is stronger than ever. I think that's really kind of powerful.
And when you mentioned degree work, do you feel that you have a certain favorite part for yourself that you really like that, as a leader, as a master, you got to do a lot, but is there a certain piece that you just feel like just speaks to you and as a leader in the fraternity, what kind of motivates you and guides your thoughts?
So I have done the EA degree for years at Warren Lodge, and I feel like it's one of the most important moments because it's their first like foray into the inner workings of Masonry, and they don't know what to expect. So I ended up, I do the door lecture, I do a chamber of reflection, I do a Bible lecture. I have a brother who does a second section lecture where they explain about like the shoe being removed, being shod, and is basically from the Book of Ruth, and like he goes through a lot of details that you don't really learn otherwise without that lecture. And then there's a whole bunch of other little facets to it. We tend to keep it dark. I always say like they couldn't turn up the candles in the colonial lodges of the past. Bringing a brother to light is about information. It's not about jacking the lights in the room and making it look like a cafeteria. So we keep it dark and moody with like. But I took that from Hiram Lodge. I'm a member, as you are, at Hiram, and I went to colonial degrees down there where we did it entirely by candlelight. And so I really tried to make the experience heavy, but like so serious and so moody, and so I just wanted it to be like such one gentleman, he said the nicest thing. He goes, that experience was only second to the birth of my son as far as like a religious experience. And I was like, wow, I'll take that. That's a compliment. And everyone who's had it has said like, they're like, wow, that's crazy, because I want it to be something where they go home and they got to think about it for days. But I also do a thing with the degrees where like when we after their investigation committee, and they are voted on, and then if they're elected to receive the degree, I mail them a letter that says, hey, it was a unanimous vote, the brothers elected you, blah blah blah. It says a couple of things that come out of the charge in there for verbiage, and then it states basically at the end that take a moment to wait with patience. For there another letter will be forthcoming. And so now they've got this, they know that they've been accepted. Now they check the mailbox for like a month, waiting for that letter that says when the date of their initiation is going to be. And then when they get that one, and they always come stamped, sealed with a wax seal, the whole business, and they open that one, and then it says when it's going to be. It's like I like to kind of build that anticipation. And then once they move on, the other degrees, there's a letter that goes out with each. I've offered to provide those to any secretary that wants them. But I like the idea that like the EA degree is something that can be made into a powerful statement. In the old days, I mean, it's really not anything new. You got to figure if you were becoming a Mason 150 years ago, they probably mailed you a letter. You know what I mean? So I think when I had mine, they're
Wow.
like, be there Thursday.
Yeah, I got mine on a dot matrix printout. It was like, when the printer went back and forth
You had to tear the
and
sides
so I got
off.
the letter in the mail. I was well, you could see the fringes were torn. And so I was excited to get this letter and I still like sending letters, but I remember it was dot matrix and it was slightly off center. I wish I still had it, but yeah, it was slightly off center. It goes, your degree will be on this date, show up, bring money. So I did. Here I am. So looking forward, so now you've got you've got your inspiration from your degrees, you've got all this experience. What do you think? What are your hopes and dreams with your upcoming? And these are, I know that even though we're in Grand Lodge, they are 1-year appointments at least, right? So it's 1 year, but you're opening yourself up to a bigger stage. What do you hope to accomplish with your time and effort in the coming year?
I mean, since I don't know, I mean, this is obviously, I'm like, I can't put the cart before the horse. I don't have any idea yet because I am not installed and I am not present. Haven't even attended one meeting. But idealistically, if we're going to talk just like out of wishes and hopes, I mean, I hope that I'm able to make an impact. I hope that my travel around the district helps to unify, solidify, and grow the district. And then once I'm able to build brotherhood in the seventh, maybe if time allows, and if I'm lucky enough to be appointed in the future, that I can then hopefully expand that range throughout the districts of the state of Connecticut. And then maybe there'll be a lasting impression that, is able to help the fraternity. Because truthfully, I mean, nothing I'm doing is a mystery. It's really just about hard work. And I've already synthesized it down to what works. And I'd be happy to pass that information along and maybe inspire some people to do what I've done and maybe some things that I haven't gotten to do yet that I would like to see other people do. And I'd like the idea that maybe this is like an opportunity to, Freemasonry is like it's like that old adage. It's like you get out of it what you put into it. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is always I enjoy being a part of Freemasonry because I enjoy seeing how it affects like the world. I saw something Saraceni had mentioned in his podcast, Right Worshipful, about his a time where a brother helped his daughter. And so I was on the other side of the world at a cafe in a medieval town where we walked up and there's 15 people waiting in line to get into a restaurant. And I don't really speak Italian that well. So I did my best. Mi dispiace, non parlo italiano. Like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Italian. Tu parli inglese? And he goes, no. Like, shit. And then he looks at me and my girlfriend goes, "Sono vegetariana?" Like she's a vegetarian, and he goes like, "Ugh." And he keeps looking at my collar because I always wear a Masonic button on my collar when I travel, just a small one. It's the Hiram one, you know it very well, and so it's tiny. But he kept looking at it and he kept looking at it and he grabbed 2 menus and he grabbed us by the hand and he walked us out to this fabulous table that's kind of overlooking the valley, which is kind of wild too, because that's not for 2 tourists who don't speak the language. He walked us past everybody, sat us at the nicest table, and he basically sat down next to my girl and he goes, "Aubergine, eggplanta." And he starts going through the translations for the things that are vegetarian. He gives me a Masonic handshake and he walks away. There's a line of people that were waiting for his time, but he knew I was a Mason. He knew we needed help, and he helped us, and he gave us a great table, and he explained the menu to my girlfriend so that she could eat what, she desired. And I was like, that's the other side of the world, and he cared. So I love the idea that our fraternity has that impact of just like a wonderful moral code of like, be supportive, be helpful. And, I'd like to see if we can kind of continue that and spread it further. So.
Well, I'm excited for that, and I really appreciate that story. That's a great story, and I do promise to turn us into Muppets for you. I'll send you some Muppet AI work because I just enjoy the Muppets. We'll see what else we can get out of the machine. What's coming up for you in the next coming weeks? We're probably releasing this in late. We're recording it a little earlier in the month. We're releasing in late February. What are you looking forward to in March and up to Grand Lodge? What are you trying to get excited for? And I know you're very active in your Blue Lodge Council and a bunch of other things. You just talk about that as we begin to close.
Yeah, sure. So coming up at Blue Lodge Council, Worshipful Brother Nero is our president. He's put together a heck of a schedule of events. So on March 31st, which is a Tuesday, we have a table lodge at Jephthah 95 in Clinton. It's above the town hall. It has a wonderful space. I think we're going to actually eat downstairs. I think they use that room, but the town hall is an amazing facility. It'll be a table lodge with a program on fish and wildlife. I believe that Right Worshipful Brother Rich Boardman had put that together. And then the next one after that, just to give you one more, will be May 29th. It's a Friday at Granite Lodge 119. And there's a fellowcraft degree that's going to be performed by the past masters. And what's really great about Granite is if you go out the front door, much like Hiram, they have the steps. So it's kind of nice to have the 357 out front and they can utilize it. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, Jerry Nero kind of put his arm around me like, "You're gonna come?" And I was like, "Jerry, I'm gonna come, but I got a lot of meetings, Jerry, but I'll try. I'll try." So, but he does that a lot where he kind of puts his arm around you and just says, "You're gonna come," and people come, especially if he's cooking, I gotta
He's
say.
he's
So
got
I'm
an
very happy
infectious
about that.
personality, you know what I mean? Like, I hate to say it's the Italian in him, but, like, it is that, like, he's just jovial and loving, and when he hugs you or he shakes your hand, like, you can feel the passion that he exudes. But that's why he's great as a leader for the district. I think that he's a very visible leader. He's everywhere. So that's awesome too,
Well,
because it is really about you gotta get out.
I'm gonna definitely you're inspiring me to podcast with with brother Jerry, and I'm feeling it now. So he's going to get Jerry. You're going to get a call soon. I
I
promise.
love it.
You're going to be next
Absolutely.
up. Great. So hey, thank you so much for taking part in this podcast, and I'm looking forward to working with you. And I'm sure that there's and so many others are as well. So thank you for coming on and doing the podcast a little early, letting everyone get to know who you are. You have any final thoughts as we close this out?
I have two quick little things. One, Masonic Family Day Baseball in its fourth year will be on July 1st at Dodd Stadium. Last year, we sold 700 tickets, of which half the money goes to the stadium, half the money goes to Masonicare. So we were able to donate $3,500 to Masonicare. I'd like to sell 1,000 tickets this year. To be quite honest, it really wouldn't be a hard lift. There's going to be a letter going out to all the lodges in the state of Connecticut. If every lodge would consider just buying 5 tickets, even if you can't go, if you just check the box and you happen to send the check, we'll donate those tickets that you're not going to use to the Bully Busters, the Young Marines, the Cub Scouts. We'll do it to DeMolay or the local chapter for Rainbow Girls. But there's a bunch of youth groups in our town that we would love to give tickets. So we're kind of hoping, or at least I'm hoping for 100% participation, even if it's like I said, if they buy 2 tickets or 1 ticket or 20 tickets. But there was a lot of nice people that supported and donated, and we did give away quite a few tickets last year. But our goal is to get 100% participation. And the last thing I wanted to leave you with, I looked up that Connecticut Freemason magazine from January 17th, which was the picture that I first saw that led me and Ryan Howard to have the conversation about Freemasonry that brought me in. And there was a wonderful, like, from the Grand Master letter at the very beginning. And Gail Smith, most worshipful past Grand Master Gail Smith wrote, "Brothers all, let us each continue to do our part to make our lodges sanctuaries of enthusiasm, learning, and camaraderie." And I thought it couldn't be better said.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, brother, and I appreciate your time today. If anybody has questions for you about the Seventh District, how can they get in touch with you?
Warren Lodge 51 at gmail.com would be easiest, or you can call me direct.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for all that you've done so far, and we'll continue to do. You say you get out of masonry what you put in. Well, you're going to get a lot out. I promise. Here it comes.
I look
So
forward to working
good
with
luck
you.
to you and awesome.
Thank you.
So, hey, this is our podcast today, and check us out next time. We'll talk to someone else interesting. And if you have an interesting story to tell, I'd love to help you tell it. My name is Nick Ives. So, Nick Ives at ctfreemasons.net, and we'll catch you next time.
Awesome.